Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm really happy we can all be here together and continue our exploration and discovery and our love. First rose bloom today. I gave it to Shiva. Okay. I want to preface, I want to get right into kind of the core of the course and the teaching today, but I want to preface it with a couple of things. First thing is that in this discovery, in this evolution, I am, you could say the Jennifer, in this case, is assuming the role of guide. And all of you are playing the role of guided. But that is one thing, right? Two sides of a coin, two sides of a hand. Same, 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 same. So pronouns can be really funny, and we don't really have the languaging for wholeness, honestly, at the moment, but I'm sure we will eventually someday. But it's just a reminder that all I'm ever talking about is us, meaning everything. So that's one thing I wanted to just remind all of us. And also, I guess, just in that same vein, that language can, I'm kind of always talking about this, and I know we've agreed. It's just like maybe a reminder for my own self. Languaging is by nature categorical and divisionary, really. This is a this, that is a that. We have to have it, right? I mean, it's practical. But when we are languaging the dimensions that we might call spiritual with the either faith or knowing that all is one, all is all, there's quite literally no way to use language, but we're going to do it. So that's the way it goes. A lot of the time today, I might find myself speaking about what it's not rather than what it is. And I know that can get frustrating sometimes as a listener, and I'll try to play both sides. But it's just that sometimes the way to approach something is by pointing to what it's not. Sometimes you can get a little bit closer than trying to really narrow it down with what it is. Anyway, I'm also going to read a little bit of something that I wrote. I used to be really shy about doing this until I saw Adya do it at retreat, and I thought, okay, come in with his iPad, sit down and, read. It's like, okay. Because sometimes, honestly, it gets so much closer than extemporaneous speaking, or at least can kick it off. The meditation into the third chakra seemed to have struck a lot of chords and in accord with all of us. I really tried even to steer clear of the words third chakra and just really try to point to an area that we all have and share, because honestly, even the words third chakra have so much connotation anymore that it's like, but I think the reason that it strikes a chord is because it's the area of will, choice, and therefore power. And we all, as human beings, have had times of feeling empowered and feeling disempowered. It's a big area. It's a real bridge when unimpeded, and let's say the divine consciousness, rather than the egoic consciousness, is in the driver's seat there. The path is completely unimpeded to the heart, the throat, and the crown. So it's also kind of like a pressure release valve, it lets a little bit through, and then a little bit and a little bit and a little, you know what I mean? So that this pathway doesn't get over before the time is ready. So in this moment that we're all living through and experiencing, and probably in all moments, but let's just stick with the one that we are in, and so we're not hypothesizing. Power is of central concern, and the engagement with it is what we are all learning. And in that, especially with all of the spirit accessibility to spirituality, you might say, on the internet, all of the great wisdom that has been written down through the ages is completely available. You can order the Bhagavad Gita on Amazon and all of that. It's all available. It's all here. There are no guardians really at the temple doors anymore. It's just complete access. And therefore becoming quite glamorized, and there's some real tendencies to spiritualize the ego. So another thing I just really wanted to bring forward here at the beginning before I start reading this is that the core of this teaching, the foundation, is the dissolution and deconstruction of the separate sense of identity. It's critical, you might say, in what I'm speaking about today, to see through the ego process, see through it, and eventually completely surrender it. The sense of I-ness, first the me, then the ownership of anything, really. something's occurring to me right now that Dr. Hawkins, I don't know where I heard it or read it or whatever, but he used to say, as long as there's a belief in the doer of deeds and the thinker of thoughts, we've got a problem. The doer of deeds and the thinker of thoughts can get very spiritualized. It can get itself on a path of spirituality. So all the other things rest on that. The deconstruction, the willingness to give way and let go and allow the me to unravel. Like Adya says, the end of the world, of the, the end of the me. I'm going to read a little bit now. I hope it won't be too boring. Evolution, nature, our nature. I'm going to stop here and dive into this just a little bit. We are nature. We aren't something other than that. There isn't nature and us. Nature and humanity. I have a really big old dictionary. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. My kids make fun of me as I read it, but I just love it. And I have a bookmark in the definition of nature because it's fascinating. This is like a dictionary that was printed like in the 40s. And I wrote down a little bit of the definition of nature. The sum total of the forces at work throughout the universe. The vital powers. Original, simple, naked, native. Nature. Power. Power. Mother Nature. Shakti. That which animates. The vital power. The minute human beings take themselves out of that and just decide to look at nature or experience nature or find, I don't know, whatever we do with nature, but it's something other. To me, that's the loss of the Garden of Eden. That's that whole story. And talk about disempowering. And frightening to reclaim, right? Because it's wild. So we are that. Nature, our nature, which is not separate from Mother Nature, is pushing us to move forward into an era of spiritual expansion. An era of heart expansion that I am calling evolutionary love. However, if we live from the concept of separateness, matter and spirit, as two separate things, we risk the error of a spiritualized ego. Phenomena happens, right? And the ego responds, and I'm not dissing, let's be clear. We're not vilifying the ego. It's a process that exists that we need to be aware of. The ego responds in a conditioned fashion that is based on the idea of its preservation. It's preservational, it's survivalist. If this process of narration and self-preservation exists as the driver, the primary thing, the primary identification, then a spiritual reality will be used rather than lived. And this is really, really key. This is why at least all of the teachers that I resonate with sort of preach vigilance. It will be used as a spiritual concept, an idea that furthers and props up the ego's idea of survival. It's innocent. It wants to live. So if it gets a hold of, I'm saying it as if it's like an entity, but you all know what I'm talking about, the process of conditioned identification. Gets a hold of it, and it enters that cycle, then the reality is, the truth is now mediated by this process and owned by this process. So I'm going to try not to get snarky because you know how I can get, but this idea of co-creation is killing me. Whom of us engineered our own birth and death? Who wakes us up in the morning? Okay, it's a concept. I tried to come up with a better word rather than just trash on what I'm not enjoying. How about conscious collaboration at best? Consciously collaborating with and as the divine. Co-creating, number one, inherently separate. Co-creating, inherently a separate concept. Conceptual thing. The ego process assumes there is, oh, here it is. I had it written down. Thinker of thoughts and doer of deeds. I put it in quotes. Dr. Hawkins. It assumes there's a thinker. There's a doer. And that thinker and the doer are called me. I'm thinking. I'm doing. We all are intimate with that. The me believes in the me. There is a me that is co-creating with God. So in the best case scenario, you've got an ego process that's altruistic and idealistic in its intention within this concept of co-creation. And that could be a good thing, I suppose, for reality, because altruism and idealism, goodness, if that's motivating your ego process and you want to co-create with God, then that probably moves to some pretty uplifting places and gifts for society at large. But it's based in a conceptual duality. It's still based in conceptual duality. It will have an air of, I am doing the right thing. I am doing the good thing. It has that, as Audia would say, perfume. But at least it's of great service to the world. But here's where it gets kind of not so great. What about a not so mature ego? Where, although they may have had some glimpses into awakened reality, they are still very much living from separateness and talking about co-creation. So a predominant level of consciousness characterized by deservedness, undeservedness, righteousness, wrongness. And in this case, you have people walking about believing that they are creating, and enlivening reality with their own personal thinker and doer. And that's really scary, guys. And that's happening like crazy. Awakened consciousness moves towards wholeness, harmony, love, justice, which is another word for authenticity, through and as authentic individuation, not personal thinkers and doers, authentic individuals. It is the way of empty fullness. For instance, in the scenario of a me that co-creates, this is how it would sound. I have a vision of reality and it's all love and bliss and it looks like this and everybody's doing this and we will all be equal and society will look like this and these people are good and these situations are bad and this weather is bad and that weather is good and this way is good and the other way is bad, and all we have to do is align with the right ways and at all times think very, very positively and act righteously, and I will get what I want. That's a me co-creating. In the case of empty fullness, non-existent existence. Feet on the ground for this one. Beloved Holy One, that from which all comes, by, in, through, from, as. Make me a vessel, an instrument. I don't know. The way is wild and mysterious, joyful and unknown. Lead me to authentic expression of peace, love, compassion, and justice through my individual ray of light on the immediate path that is illumined by and as our love. Each and every moment is ripe with the grace of potential and possibility. Each and every moment is the perfect reflection of love's wholeness. Guide me that all being may benefit from and through these actions and choices. May this life be lived consciously as this wisdom, as this grace, shining consciously, bravely, in faithful unknowingness. It's dramatically different, right? So all these words, this is a cautionary tale today. To choose our words from all of the deeper dimensions that we've been discovering. The listening to the heart, to the spirit, putting our original, our origin, our source in the driver's seat. And, you know, we're human. So really, I feel that what we can do is to continue to be sincere with the process. Because the more space that opens up through our intention and our aspiration, what we aspire to, the more comes in the challenges, right? The challenges of a spiritual aspiration, a sincere one. Are very real. So the ego process exists. It exists strongly in the collective consciousness, and in a time like this, it again, not the entity, but this process of um, living from a purely sort of physical and intellectual, like I think, therefore I am place that has been handed down to us as a legacy. If we're living purely from that, then, and a lot of people are, then this process that's in the psyche that we call ego, that is this conditioned traditional kind of this thing that is passing, it feels like when it's time to get a new coat or something, it's like, it's time to shed that. But the thing is we don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're going. Collectively, there is no, which is imperative in this process, but collectively, to the ego, it just feels like death. So it can come in to the space that is open in a open heart, in an open mind, in a sincere seeker, and grab on pretty tightly. So we have to, what I'm trying to get around to is the forgiveness piece of spirituality is real. The and sincerity. Yep, that just happened. It was a definite conditioned response, and moving forward, give me the grace to see the fresh possibility and potential here in this moment. So in other words, if we have moments, we will have moments of conditioned ego response, then we don't turn that into yet another conditioned ego response. You stop it. There's somebody home. Consciousness is here and devoted and practiced and sincere and gentle and loving, and it just stops it and says, okay, what do I want to put in the driver's seat here? How can I lend? How can I get out of the way, give way? How can this conditioned response, this me response, give way to a more enlightened, more evolved, open, fresh, loving, peaceful? Because it's there. We are here. It's just a matter of identification and ownership of the identification. Consciously, I wrote something sometime, I don't remember when it was, but it was about threads in a tapestry. The tapestry being totality itself, wholeness itself, and all the threads becoming conscious of the unique and universal aspect of their existence. It's unique and it's universal. We are in the universe is in us. It's whole. This way, it's a way. It's a way of being rather than a doer doing. It's a way of allowing and giving way. And that is not, and we've all talked about this and we know it, but it's probably worth saying, not like a doormat, not completely up and out and transcended. Okay, everything, nothing matters. No, it's descent. It's the descent of spirit into matter. That's the era we're in, for sure. The conscious experiential living of spirit as matter. And, possibly this is belief, but I don't think so. I know Dr. Hawkins muscle tested it, and a lot of the kind of teachers that are sort of riding the crest of the new earth, you might say, evolution, and you can sense it. You can sense it. When we come together, like a bunch of the threads in the tapestry come together and start consciously collaborating, not only have they individually woken up to the power of their unique thread, but they have a vision of consciously collaborating with the other awake threads. It lights up the whole thing. So, Hawkins put numbers on it as far as however many individuals at a certain level of consciousness balance a bunch of other very struggling individuals who have no experience of their own power and are trying to move through life forcefully as a very forceful me because they're trying to survive. I'm going to keep going just a little bit here. So when we are trying, when we are in a level of consciousness where the view is a thinker of thoughts and a doer of deeds. A thinker and a doer, and that thinker and that doer are me. Talk about like a David and Goliath situation. You, me, against the world and all of its reality. Holy shit, guys. I don't think so. It feels powerless because it is. And it hits you right here. It's tricky though, because when we are giving way, when we've clarified our aspirations and our intentions and we've set our compasses to the, turned our radio dial to the destruction of the ego, the destruction of me, the dissolution of the I thought. Survival issues will necessarily come up and forward. And the loss of a personal will, Adya always says that's like one of the hardest phases. I think he says it's the hardest because it just experientially, it can feel differently for different people, obviously. And maybe, there are those of us that just jump right through it. But a lot of times experientially, it can feel so rudderless, so directionless, so unmotivated, so unenergized, that process of conditioning wants to come in and energize something, man. The doer hangs on. Or not. Maybe not for you, which, hallelujah, hallelujah. But especially like in a culture like ours in Western world, doing pretty significant conditioning. I know in my growing up family, very significant in a beautiful way. I have a great work ethic and all, but like if you were just sitting there, some adult on the ranch would say to you, what do you think you're doing? Because I got some things for you to do. I feel like one of Adya's tenets, the clarifying your aspiration, directly relates to this area. The compass. Setting your compass, clarifying what you genuinely aspire to. Spiritually. It sets the compass for choices and kind of naturally moves our life into the stream of nature. Evolution. I wrote something here. It sets our compasses to authentic expression of timeless peace for the good of the whole. The fabric of reality is shifted on the level of spiritual, on the blueprint level. Like I'm not against anything that I'm saying right now, but it's not the same thing as standing on the corner with a sign. There's room for that. There's room for all expression, obviously. Obviously, there's room for all to express as all. But it's just not, it's shifting and changing the reality on a different level of consciousness, a level of beingness. Changing by virtue of conscious experience of what we are originally, essentially. A conscious experience of that changes reality, because the view that I was talking about, the view precipitates the experience. How you view it, so it is. Through a lens of, I want to say below 200, but that's like Hawkins language, but like through that lens of struggle and separateness, division, even the most beautiful of all situations appears divided and separate and struggling. So we're using, not the greatest word, we are utilizing, collaborating with our gift of attention and reflect our gift of self-reflection to more and more and more put God, I guess you might say, or our deeper sense of self, our universality in the driver's seat of our individuality. You know, Adya's calling it the numinous individual. Hawkins had a name for it, Homo divinicus. Like he's a scientist, so it was like a whole separate branch, a whole species coming off the branch of Homo sapien. Divine humanity. Conscious threads in this beautiful tapestry of wholeness. Empty fullness. That is the shining, the ray. We are sound, vibration, and light. All this matter exists mostly as space, but also light. And that unique, it's like a snowflake. Like, you know how every single snowflake is completely individual and unique and special, not in a way of more special than others. It's snow, like all other snowflakes. It is snow. But it's like the lens for like a lampshade, right? If we cut our unique shape, our unique Jenniferness, Diana-ness, Jim-ness, Barb, all your uniqueness, you cut it as shapes on a lampshade, and then the light that we all are shines through it in that particular fashion. It enriches reality to the point that the senses have to transform in order to actually be not just on your knees sobbing all the time like Dr. Hawkins said. It's true. The actuality of that is, brings you to your knees, is blinding. And this evolution into, Homo divinic, whatever you want to call it, evolutionary love, conscious human expression as evolutionary love, it's happening. It's happening right now, right here in this Zoom session. And it's shifting the fabric of your reality from Holocaust. Okay, I'll read something here to end this, and then we're going to take a break. I wanted to read from Meister Eckhart today. He was a good friend. To live the wayless way, free and yet bound. Learn to live among things, but not in things. All God's friends live this way, among cares. You don't stop caring, but not within cares. How wonderful it is to be in this spiritual maturity, that one exists both outside and inside. One seizes and is seized. One sees and is seen. One holds and is held. That is the goal, where the spirit remains at rest, united to eternity, as it works its activities in time, full of nobility and joy. Okie doke. Let's take a 15-minute break. Let's come back at 2:30. See you in a minute. I'm pausing the recording, so I'm going to put up my little written in red recording signed by Tim to turn it back on when we get back. Okie dokie. Well, anybody want to add anything through a question, exploration, report, discovery? Jim, are you unmuted?
There we go.
There you go.
This was the perfect moment to say we are beings of sound, vibration, and light. Because right as you were saying that, a thunderstorm hit. There was water running down off the roof, the lightning, the thunder shaking the house.
Don't you love it when it happens like that?
Yeah, I wanted to turn on the camera and show everybody.
I love it. I love thunderstorms. We're going to have one later today. It's building right now.
Yeah, it dumped all the hail over here a couple miles to the east and west, and it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
But perfect timing and good job. Yeah, right on. Yeah, but I really look forward to retreat, and what is going on is like spirituality and psychology in our culture have been kind of separated, or uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's been taken off and made its own thing, kind of. And I'm getting that they're not. They'll be just different labels for same things. Or um, one is this grokking, the other one is just trying to figure out, kind of. Um, anyway, that's kind of been my inquiry lately. Is uh, the psychology disappears into
Mm-hmm.
oneness, or
Yep.
still quiet. Um, yeah, I had an experience a week or so ago at Spirit Retreat that was like 180 degrees from the way things were going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's all for now. So
Okay.
I really appreciate your willingness to make yourself available.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you. I'm so glad you're coming to retreat. I'm getting excited. A lot of the details are now worked out, so the excitement's starting to come in.
the pedaling is over. It's slowing down.
Uh-huh. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, the psychology, I heard Adia say just even last week, maybe, or something, real recently, that he didn't think as a spiritual teacher he was going to have to, have to deal with so much psychology, but that he realized about 5 years in that they go hand in hand. And the psychology definitely matures as the spirituality matures. And then the eventuality is the loss of all of that. And when it is, surrendered, at least for the most part, that can be a little bit of a tricky situation too, because there's real deep psychology around the story and all of that. Even if it's a real positive one, it still feels like ownership. It can still feel like ownership, my psychology, my story. But the other piece, early on when I was teaching, I didn't take that into consideration at all. And it was just kind of like, yes, let's all get it. Let's all get it right now. And I remember Ida isn't here for this class, but our sweet Ida Sangha friend, who is a psychotherapist, in her one-on-one session with me at retreat one time, was kind of like, patting my knee like, down, little puppy. It's like, it's really important to have a fairly intact psychology to endeavor along this path. Like, otherwise, and you see them at like the larger retreats, like at Adia's retreats and stuff, person after person grabbing onto this grace that's just flooding the planet right now, this evolution, this just, of awakening, with a really already fragmented psychology. And that's the people who, are tripping off the deep end. And just, I feel for those folks. So yeah, it is an interesting weave. It's an interesting blend. And I think we have tended to separate it, like we do everything. But how can it be? How can it be? I'm hoping people have some stuff to say or explore. And if not, Jayshree, coming on?
Yeah.
Yay. Hi, Jay.
Hi. Um, I feel like there's definitely parts of what you're speaking of I experience. And I also feel like also the person off the deep end. Like it's like a wave. There's deep end, and then there's some relaxation, or not sure, like the second half of the pose, I guess, in yoga. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because there's so many times where there's love without borders, I feel like.
Mhm.
But then, like, I've definitely felt that. I felt that oneness, and I felt that. And then at the same time, there is so much, there has been so much harm done. There has been so much trauma and pain that can't that can't help but come up to move through, like
Mhm.
to keep moving. And so which can be really intense. And I think what I'm hearing you say is not that it's not intense. I hear
Oh,
it's
it's very
everything.
intense.
It's everything, yeah. And that's what I appreciate about you as a teacher is I know that you've been through some very intense things in your life, and here you are. It's really beautiful. And that's real. Like that's life. Life it can be really hard sometimes.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I just want to I want to do my best. Like you were saying, I want to just move forward, but I also also just want to acknowledge like, wow, it's a lot to just be to love without boundaries, or just to try to my best to be present, I guess, with everything that comes up. When I think of it globally, it feels super overwhelming. But
Mhm.
when I think of it as like, this is my life and these are the people that come into this is what I can um, express through this vessel here, then it's not as like um, overwhelming, I guess, because then it's one step at a time. It's one moment at a
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Um, but I'm definitely like I'm feeling both. Like kind of feels like this back and forth, like um, ebb and flow, I guess. So uh, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. You know, the first love, original love, love without cause. You can't find a cause for it. You can't find a beginning or an ending. Inherently, by its nature of what it is, has no borders. It creates everything, the apparent borders of phenomena and expression. It moves in and as form, but is never changed by it. No matter if the form is brutal trauma. And I know you and I know where you're coming from, Jayashree.
Mm-hmm.
And that you very graciously, very, very graciously are open to transformation for not just your personal self, but your tribe. I get that about you. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
When we try to do that with our personal
Mm-hmm.
love, which is a beautiful expression, especially in your case, we can't. We can't because the uncaused, original, inherent, mysterious, hidden love that accompanies your personal love and all your circumstances is the great giver and forgiver and healer. The personal will always be in time. It will only ever shift things in the level, in the aspect of time. Like you and I were talking about the horizontal rather than the vertical.
Right.
It's not built, personal love is not necessarily built for transformation. It's built for other things.
Mm.
They're one and the same. I'm talking about it as two different things. They can never exist as two different things, but they're experienced as two different things. And I think that's what you're saying. You know, it's like, wow, okay. And what I love is that the moment is informing you. And
Mhm.
that's really all you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Yeah. You can through boy, all the things we talk about, giving way, through surrender, I guess you might say, invitation. You can invite the boundless, as you're calling it, into the bound in a conscious way when things are,
Mhm.
like you're saying, heating up, intense,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm just having a conversation so we can all learn from it, but that is incredibly important for the work that you do because of the collective trauma.
Mhm.
I mean, not that all of us aren't honestly a product of collective trauma, but it's recent history. You know what I mean? With what you're doing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So just the more the invitation, the turning over, and the allowing that moment, like you're saying, to inform the next move of doing what love requires, really,
Mhm.
is somebody's trying to get in. Somebody must have got kicked off. Anyway, you hear what I'm saying. Does that resonate?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for so much for all the deep work you do and your commitment and to your family and to your tribe and the earth. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you too. Appreciate you.
See you tomorrow for lemon balm harvest.
Okay. Trying to figure out how to unmute this real quick.
I don't know because I'm not on a phone. Oh, there you go. You did it. Barb, are you coming on? No? Okay.
I just lost connection, so
Oh,
I just missed the last part of Jai Shri. So
it'll be
So-
on the recording because I remembered to push record.
good job. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll wait a few minutes, see if anybody else jumps in.
Well, okay. You're on there. You sure you don't want to just go?
Oh, what the hell? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, just before we started today, I got a message from my daughter who asked me if I was going to watch the launch. And I didn't even know there was any launch today. I guess 2 astronauts went into space. It's the first time in 9 years. Anyway, so I watched the launch, and it was a real powerful experience. It was just a real powerful experience, you know, a lot of excitement, and it brought tears to my eyes. It was just an interesting reaction. And then there was also the recent experience of the suffering, a lot of suffering that's happening and I'm sure Jai Shri talked about this a little bit too, about the just the unrest and just horrendous displays of racism in our country of late. And so just sitting with the experience of both and it just seems like here lately there's been a lot of that, just real deeply experiencing the heart of everything, just the heart. That's been there's really been a presence recently with that.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you know, there's nothing really to question about it. There's nothing really to say about it. It just is. It's just, you know, it's just a matter of being, and being present with it.
As it.
Yeah.
It's a heartful time. The heart is expanding necessarily to hold the fabric of reality together. The heart is expanding. It's like the Grinch. Not you personally, you're not a Grinch, but like reality.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah, and you know, in the past, there really would have been a sense of I've got to do, you know, coming motivated from the ego. I have to do something about this, you know, and that isn't a part of this anymore. It's just not a part of this anymore. It's well, you spoke to it already. From the second view of
the timeless,
that out of that devotion comes a pause for the movement of whatever it is, to, you know, to be available to it, to be willing to be there with it, for it, whatever, but it's not driven by anything that's in this body right now.
Beautiful. Well said. I love that. The devotion, I can't remember the word you just used, but brings about a pause, just an open listening.
Yeah. And availability. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
because the cares of the world don't just disappear.
No. No.
They just can't be seen as other anymore.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the timeless, changeless, boundless unknowingness that is accompanying this whole entire reality is simultaneously moved and unchanged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And you're
Thank
just
you.
kind of living as that heartfelt pause.
Yeah. Yeah.
Identity
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? Heartfelt pause.
Yeah.
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 And then
Mm-hmm.
action and choice move from and as that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. Well, beautifully said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Okay. I'm going away. Maybe.
Maybe.
It's here somewhere. I know. You know, it's like, I know it's.
You got it. Anybody else want to share?
Hey, Jen.
Hi, Trish. Hey.
Hi. I missed our last session because of migraine, and so I was glad to hear that other people had a struggle with this last meditation, the navel, because it really affected me greatly. And what I was shown, or the not knowing, and how, of course, the ego has said that before. Oh, yeah, I know nothing. Oh, doesn't that sound beautiful? You know, and and to really, like, I'm sure it'll still be tearful because it was so powerful. Really not knowing was so scary. And yet, it was like free falling in the not knowing.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, I know nothing. And everything that I thought, wow, just, yeah, isn't, or it's not what I thought it was, or all the ideas I put around it, even the beautiful spiritual, even my yoga, you know. So the last, you have really showed me the heart medicine. So that has been such my focus the last couple of years. So to go back into the navel, where I do hold a lot of traumas and issues and blah, blah, blah. But to discover the not knowing there was interesting. It was just, so thank you for your teachings.
Thank you. You know, if I could suggest anything,
Yes.
and you know this, and I'm sure already devoted to it, but the not making anything of this phase of the unknowingness dawning in a different manner, it'll move faster. And you're very wise to see that it is a free fall, and you know, so something wants to grab, because
Yes,
you know what I'm
definitely.
saying? That's human nature. I could deeply understand, but if I could suggest, just stick with your letting it all go.
Yeah.
This moment, best moment, present moment, because it'll move through it's very disorienting right at first. So
Very
it's as if you're
disorienting.
standing on the edge and you know what I mean? And so like, that's like instinct. You see it in a baby.
Yeah.
Wired
Yes.
very, very deeply.
Yes.
Very deeply wired. So
Yes.
just Breathe it, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. That whole, don't make anything of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Because, yeah, there was as soon as it showed itself and being able to experience it in the body. And yeah, the first reaction was to grab.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the existential, that's, you know, when you watch the babies being born and they go like,
Mhm.
they come into existence and they go, ah! It's deep, you
It's
know, and
deep.
pretty
Yes.
soon that like free fall feeling eventually will just, you know how, you know, when you know how you, when you become accustomed to something and it no longer really has like an opposite in your spirit experience, like, okay, say like when you're 9 years old, you know, 9 is 9 and 9 is present and that's like 9, and maybe when you're 10 and 11 you can still sort of compare to being 9, but by the time you're like
Right.
40 you're going, I don't know what it felt like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's, you're just
Yes.
being, you've already grokked 9, it's already a
Yeah.
part of you and you don't have to keep revisiting it and like going, oh yeah, I know what a 9-year-old know. You know, you did it. That's how that free
Yes.
fall will become. You know, it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like that
Mm-hmm.
sense of it is housed in the nervous system is what I discovered. You know, that it is really,
It's
it's
so much.
yeah, and it is kind of
It
disorienting.
was in the nervous
And
system.
pretty soon,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I'm just so appreciative because if I would have found this on my own, or I don't, I just really appreciate being able to have this conversation with you on this because, yeah, I don't, I don't know if I would have found that on my own without able to express it with others. Thank everyone in the group that yeah, I don't know what the experience would be then. So I'm really grateful for this.
Yeah, I understand. I'm grateful as well for the
Yeah.
beings I've been able to talk to about it. And it can bring in a lot of compassion for, like you just said, if that was happening and you had no context for it,
Yeah.
and that's what's happening in society. You know what I'm saying? That's what's
Yes.
happening. And there's no
Exactly.
context. There's not this context of this group and the larger Sangha and the teachings and the, you know, and so it is like this uncertain free fall that is necessary for transmutation. It's necessary.
Yeah.
The caterpillar has to go, you know, the snake goes into darkness to shed, the caterpillar go, you know, you don't know what's coming out the other side.
Yeah.
It's necessary for an evolved expression, but it feels
Yes.
just what you just expressed. So now the compassion for that whole, the system crumbling,
Yes.
you know?
So true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you.
See you at retreat.
Yes.
Pat, are you coming on?
Hi.
Hi.
I could really relate to what your your speaking was great about
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Pat, and I want to hear you. Can you get a little closer?
that. Is
That's a
that
little better.
let me hold on. Let me see if I can turn my audio up. I haven't had a problem.
Sorry to make you tech in the middle of what you want to express, but I want to hear it.
Well, can you hear me now? Is this? Because I hear you fine. Am I
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit better. I'm going to turn my volume up.
So yeah, I could relate to your discussion of feeling rudderless is exactly how I feel now. And Trisha's description, I resonated with quite a bit. So I'm trying to figure out, and it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very fearful.
I understand. It's
Yeah.
scary.
It is scary.
It is. It's really scary.
So I'm really uncomfortable with the uncertainty.
Mhm.
You know, that
Yep. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to the piece of us that lives in time.
right, right,
And as you know, I know you know, the part of you, the dimension of you that is timeless is living as that all the time, each moment. So there's a lot of room in that. There's no end to the compassion. It's boundless, it's timeless, that this ground of your being has for the personal individual Pat going, wait a minute, this is like terrifying, there's no plan.
right.
It's
Yeah,
all very real and true, and the less resistance, it's beautiful the way you're expressing it, just very sincerely, because that's the key to it resolving.
yeah. I can go from having a real sense of humor about it and just going, "What the hell? What's going on?" to being totally almost paralyzed by fear of. Sometimes I can get really excited about it, like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. But right now, I really resonated. Trish, that was quite beautiful, what you said. And yeah, and then I've been flooded by the, the George Floyd stuff, really
Yeah.
flooded. That's been hard. So it's kind of mixed in with that. But the uncertainty is trying to figure out, yeah, that's I go from being excited, but mostly being afraid of it. Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate everybody's input on this, and I'm really looking forward to the retreat.
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid where this is going. I don't know where this fear is going. I seem to be able to manage it in meditation. Um, I can settle in.
Is there room for just bringing it closer? I don't know if you read the focused inquiry on struggle, but you could substitute the word fear for that easily.
I've been
And,
doing a lot with that. That's been very good.
okay, good. And
Yeah.
rather than like maybe, managing it, because we aren't going to manage it. We'd like to, and it's understandable to want to. But we have to feel it, experience it, and let it go.
Yeah, I think that's very good, wise. I think I want to experience it, but I'm clearly feeling resistance.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
That's okay too. Then you scoop the resistance up and put it on your lap and say, "Hey, honey, it's okay."
right,
Room for that. It could
yeah,
be your divine wisdom, your soul saying, slow it down, take
yeah,
this one step at a time. I'm sure it is perfectly happening the way it needs to for your unique expression. So sounds like you're really tuned in with it and you're able. And I'm glad you're coming to retreat.
me too.
Yeah. And it'll be okay. We will all be there. And even if it's just, night fright from hell. I've been there.
Yeah, well, resistance to sitting in a room of people and sobbing.
Yeah. I've been there.
Thank you very much, and I thank the group a lot. So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Fortitude, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think your mic is still on, Pat. Oh, no, nope, it's not. It's not. You're good. It muted right when I said that. Hmm. You know, I don't think that there's any way that incarnation can be a mistake. You know, life incarnates. It flowers into existence. And, you know, I don't know how it works. I'm not saying we all were sitting in some other dimension at some point and, you know, signed a contract. I don't know. You know, we're here on Earth right now. We've got these intellects. We can't really, I don't know. But the sense is that the incarnation of this time in all of its individual expressions, you, me, all of us, is exactly right and perfect and chosen. And not only when we are able to rest in source and the timeless dimensions of our beings, or even not even if we're resting, but just have faith. Not only then, but just as we look at, you know, life itself and the way it moves towards diversity, wholeness, balance, we are wired, you might say, for that. It might feel like we have old software or whatever that needs to be updated, but all the experiences of our life up to this point have been preparing for this time. We are capable. We have the capacity. And I don't mean our individual me processes, but our soul's capacity. Our soul's capacity is the lens for this era. This is what we're living, and we have the stamina, we have the skills, we have the context. We're lucky that we have the context, because this is a big time. This is a really big time. We're doing it. And on some days it feels like incredible grief. I mean, I really understand that. Like, there are times in the garden sometimes when I feel like my foot weighs like 750 pounds and I'm going, why can't I slog my body through space? You know, what in the heck is happening? And if I sit down and I ask just that, you know, generally it's a lot of collective grief, uncertainty, the whole of it. There's tremendous grace and power right now as well. But there is less ability for all of us who are on this path consciously to push away what has to happen in the moment. So gentle, gentle, gentle kindness for oneself brings about gentle kindness and compassion for the whole. What do we got here? Anybody else? We have time. Caitlin.
I just wanted to say, I was just feeling like compelled to speak, but I don't have anything really so much to say, but just gratitude for all the realness that people are sharing today and that vulnerability. And I feel so much of that too, of the wholeness of, yeah, psychology and spirituality and not being separate and trauma and awakening and grief and all of it. So I'm appreciating the space for the big whole messiness of all of it right now in particular.
Me too. Well said. Me too.
Because I didn't like today on the call, I wasn't like, oh, my heart is feeling so blown open and it's like rainbows and stuff. It's like, I feel kind of grumpy and I'm tired and I don't feel like talking to the people that I should talk to or whatever, all those kinds of things. And it's like nice that it's just okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the medicine, right? It's just okay. Our humanity is okay.
There's no hurry and I don't need to fix it and can be really fucked up and okay.
Yep.
So thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See you soon. Yeah, I mean, the repression and therefore the space that is being created through all of this grace and people waking up and awakened consciousness permeating the layers of humanity will bring up what's repressed individually and societally, culturally, globally. It has to. We can't build our new freshness on that shaky foundation anymore. We just can't do it. Can't do it. It's got to move. Be let go of. I like the word redeemed because it makes a lot of sense to me, but it sounds funny to some people who maybe were raised in a Christian background. But it's the redeemed, if you look it up in the dictionary, it means restored to originality. Restored to originality. Restoration. I was talking to somebody about this, but it's bringing forward for me. I used to be a wound care specialist as a nurse, like physical wounds. I'm kind of a wound care specialist now, but come to think about it, you can't get away from yourself. But it was this like physical wounds, and they sometimes these really deep sores on people would heal over on the surface, but there was like maybe still 2 inches of like junky, not healthy tissue underneath a closed wound, and we would have to open it, what we call debride it, take out all, let it breathe, let it rip, bring it out of the closet. And then at the very, very bottom of these wounds, our beautiful bodies have this bed of like healthy, it's beautiful. It looks like a carpet of red fur. It's gorgeous. It's blood and vitality. And I mean, it's incredible. It's just beautiful. And the wound itself would heal by what we called secondary intention, from the ground up. And then it's actually healed. It reminds me of this, what we're doing now. Collectively, maybe personally. You never know what the moment's going to bring. Janice, are you coming in?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Great.
Hi.
Hi.
To segue from what you're saying, that when we heal a wound properly, then it's done
Exactly.
too. So, like a lot of the work that we do, once we do it and we do it properly, then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to go back and tear off the scab, dig into the wound. It's healed. It really is healed. And that's our like journey to wholeness.
Exactly. Beautiful.
And that relationship of psychology and spirituality, the journey to self-actualization, like to wholeness, our small selves,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of psychology. So our journeys to self-actualization and becoming more whole in our personalities and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then seaming that in with our psyche and that connection with our spirituality, that inherent wholeness that's always there, and awakening to it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. That's it. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the capacity is inherent. That wound bed of vital power, natural nature, vitality is there. It's there. It's there. It's there. It's there.
And it's a force of its own.
Indeed. It's the vital power of the universe. It's the animator. It's Shakti. It's life.
And it's kind of like the psychology work, the journey of our self-actualization.
Mm-hmm.
With all of our wounds and our traumas and our past experiences that create this feeling of feeling limited and restricted and plenty of things to fear.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
I'm sorry. The wind is starting to blow here, and the door just went boom while you were talking, and I was like, oh.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say now.
The traumas are
Oh yeah, the force of its own. That through the work of our with our psyche and our self development and our self actualization, we get over a hump of that hard work with healing our wounds and our traumas, and then that natural force that we're awakening to,
Exactly.
you know, kind of takes over, and
Mm-hmm.
then the work that we're trying to do psychologically, you know, becomes easier sometimes and then harder sometimes because that natural force is getting so much stronger inside of us that it's like bringing up those depths of the
Exactly.
layers of wounds um, that are creating the feeling of wholeness in our personalities, but it's already there and we're trying to awaken to in our spiritual selves.
Exactly. And you know, left to their own devices, wounds heal. Have you noticed? Like, you know, I mean, on our bodies, it's like if we scratch at something over and over and over and over and over and over and over,
Mhm.
yeah, we keep the sore. But left to the natural inherent love that animates and lives this uniqueness, this individuation, it heals. It heals. It heals. The consciousness, the conscious awareness of the like you're talking, the what looks like a process but is actually happening all the time in every moment. The conscious awareness and collaboration, I guess you might say, that's the best word I can come up with right now, is the key. Yep. It's inherent. It's powerful. And like you're saying, the more it permeates these layers, just exactly like you're saying. I love the way you're saying it. Permeates these layers of beingness, creating more space, and then something else comes in, and then that too is healed and done. Like you're saying, I like that. It's done. It's done. There's a lot of power in that. You know, we've all had that time in our life, and maybe more than once, where we just stand in our power and say, it's done. It's done. This is done. Exactly. And there it goes. Because when that is real, it's instantaneous. It's timeless. Beautiful. So beautiful. I know how devoted you've been in your life to helping and assisting all the hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people to heal. You're such a healer, and your own personal self and family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a lot of wisdom in knowing when, I mean, you can feel that power. We can all feel that power. And every thing, every phenomena, every struggle or fear or trauma, you know, all the same, all the same. Its key core element is a grasping in time, a hanging on to. Something is still being held on to. Not to be judged, but to become aware of what is still not done and what can be moved and let go of now in that power of enough. it's done. Enough. That's power. Straight away, that avenue to the redemption of the heart and the expansion both ways to source and source is embodied. Boom. We're all going to become masters at that. Life is moving in that direction. Not in a, I'm sorry, maybe I'm going too hard on this, but the co-creation of an ego process with, whatever, but in the way of undistracted, devoted, and firmly planted in spiritual reality, so that the embodiment, the individual form, lives as the formless, moves as the formless, the divine, the beloved. It's a real relief that it is the biggest laying down of a burden ever. You give it up, you lay it down, you let the river of reality move towards the sea, where all is whole. And the next moment is given freely. It's liberated. It's liberated. But not in, as we all know, life does improve. Obviously, the less contracted our me is, the less limits we feel. Somebody was bringing forward that word. The less bound we feel. So I'm not saying there aren't personal payoffs. That's not what I'm saying, but that's not the goal, you might say. That's not the motivation. It kind of happens as a beautiful byproduct. Does anybody want to say anything before we take a short break and then come back for guided meditation? We can take up the rest of the time with more discussion after a break, if that's what people want, or we can do a guided meditation. We can keep talking now. Something moving forward for anybody, just in a real way that needs to be expressed? Does anybody need a break? Can we just move into like a 20-minute meditation and then call it? Somebody need a break? It's okay. You want a break, Jill? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. So just for this moment, and we can always come back to our stories and our beautiful renderings of our lives. The way we view and process the events that occur in awareness. But for right now, just in this moment, we can agree to look beyond any notion of trauma, healing, wounding, redemption, any notion of anything really other than the direct experience of vital, alive beingness. Just for right now. We can sense the immediacy and the luminosity of this instant. We can sense the vitality, the aliveness, the beingness with these instruments we call bodies. Hearts are beating. Stomachs are digesting. Mitochondria are metabolizing. Skin cells are sloughing. Blood is nourishing. Breath is happening. Just out beyond, 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 and further beyond any notion of what's happened or what will happen. Life. Life is blooming, it's flowing, it's animating, all of its own accord. Certainly not in any kind of separation from any of us. But also not engineered by the mind or the intellect or the story or the past or the future. Just for this moment, just sense this radical immediacy, this instant, this aliveness, beingness, free, 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 free of the story, the description. Sense it on the surface of our skin, in our breath. And out beyond what appears to be the limits of our body as well. In the space in the room, in the ground under our feet, in the wind, in the trees. Just for right now, just right now, allowing the personal history, the collective history, the notions of where we're going, what we're doing, and why we're doing, just for now. We're just letting them go, removing our attention from time. Feel and sense and experience this radiant aliveness. Sense it in your solar plexus and allow it to radiate in all directions. Permeating and enlivening, enriching all the cells of this individuation. as well as all the cells of reality, the space around us, the ground beneath us, our communities, our worlds. Resting our stories, resting our personal history, and directly experiencing the alive, radiant, creative, immediate, inherent, natural, original, love presenting as this moment, this instant. I'm gonna send out an email eventually, probably, hopefully before retreat, with the recording. and a question as to whether you guys want to meet again. You don't have to answer me now or think about it now, but that email will be coming. And I love you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
And love you, Jen.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jen. Love you. Bye, everybody.
Janice, bye.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.